Before the party, she told me not to call myself her boyfriend and to say I was just a friend. I simply nodded. Once we got there, I introduced her to everyone as someone I had dated in the past. She pulled me away angrily. I met her eyes and said, "This is the honesty you wanted. It's over." And then I left. Before I go further, if you enjoy real stories like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. It helps more than you know. Now back to the story. I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but after everything that happened, I needed to get it off my chest. This is the story of how a single night exposed the truth about my relationship and how what she thought was a small request ended everything. For context, you can call me Alex. I was 28 when this happened, and I had been with Sarah for a little over 2 years. We met through mutual friends at a casual game night. She was loud, funny, creative, always full of energy. I was the calm one, a software engineer who liked stability and planning ahead. From the start, I was fully invested. I showed up for her in ways that mattered. When she lost her job 6 months into dating, I covered rent for a while, cooked meals, helped redesign her portfolio, and even turned down a promotion that would have required moving because she said she wasn't ready. I never complained. I thought that's what love was. Over time, though, small cracks started appearing. She compared me to other guys, called me predictable, made comments about wanting more adventure. There was one coworker in particular, Jake. Always traveling, always at the gym, always in her likes and messages. She told me I was insecure when I asked about it. The emotional distance grew. Plans got canceled. Texts became short. I planned a surprise cabin trip for our 2-year anniversary, and for a moment, it felt like things were back on track. But a week later, she pulled away again. I was constantly wondering what I did wrong, trying to improve myself just to keep her interested. Then came the party. That afternoon, while we were getting ready, she looked at herself in the mirror and dropped the line that changed everything. She said she didn't want me to introduce myself as her boyfriend because Jake and some work people would be there. She said labels were restrictive and she didn't want things to be awkward. I felt humiliated, but I didn't argue. I just said okay. On the drive there, I made a quiet decision. If she wanted honesty without labels, I would give her exactly that. At the party, when people asked who I was, I smiled and said, "I'm Alex. Sarah and I used to date." The first time, people laughed awkwardly. The second time, Sarah's smile started to crack. By the third time, she was furious. She pulled me into a corner and accused me of embarrassing her. I looked at her calmly and told her I was just following her rules. That's when she let the truth slip. She said she didn't want Jake to think she was tied down. She said he was exciting, creative, and that I was safe and comfortable. She even said yet when claiming she wasn't cheating. That was enough. I looked at her and said, "You wanted honesty. We're done." I walked out without raising my voice, without begging, without looking back. I blocked her number that same night, packed a bag, and stayed with a friend. The shock hit hard, but underneath it was clarity. 2 years of loyalty had been repaid with disrespect. I took a week off work to reset, not to spiral. I retrieved my things while she was out, left my key on the counter, and cut contact completely. Silence became my shield. Instead of falling apart, I focused on myself. I started working out consistently, took on more responsibility at work, and accepted a new promotion I had once passed up. I started therapy to understand why I had ignored so many red flags. Slowly, life became lighter without walking on eggshells all the time. Meanwhile, karma did what I didn't ask for. Friends started telling me what happened after the party. Sarah went after Jake immediately, only to find out he was married. Office drama exploded, his wife found out, and HR got involved. Sarah lost her job after emails surfaced. Friends distanced themselves from her. Jake eventually ghosted her, leaving her broke and isolated. The excitement she chose destroyed her stability. About a month later, she started reaching out from new numbers. Texts, voicemails, apologies. Then her friends and family tried guilt. They said I owed her support. I blocked them all. When she showed up at my door crying, asking to come back because I was stable, I told her calmly that I was not her backup plan and closed the door. Her messages turned angry, then desperate, then public. She posted about forgiveness and weakness, but it only pushed more people away. I stayed quiet and kept building my life. I bought a condo, traveled solo, and eventually met Emily, someone kind and grounded who valued me without games. 6 months later, at a mutual friend's wedding, Sarah tried one last time. She looked tired and broken. She begged to start over, said she finally realized what she lost. I told her the truth one final time. She taught me what I never wanted again. I walked back to Emily and left Sarah standing there with the consequences of her choices. That was the end. I blocked everyone connected to her and never looked back. Her betrayal was the catalyst for my growth. I didn't need revenge. I just needed self-respect. Time has a way of revealing things that emotion never lets you see clearly in the moment. In the weeks after that wedding, as life settled into a new rhythm, I finally understood just how much of myself I had been shrinking without realizing it. Being with Sarah had slowly conditioned me to accept less respect than I deserved, all while convincing myself that loyalty meant endurance. Once that weight was gone, everything felt sharper and quieter in a good way. I was no longer second-guessing texts, no longer competing with imaginary standards, no longer trying to be more exciting just to keep someone from looking elsewhere. Peace, I learned, is underrated until you've lived without it. Emily never asked me to prove anything. She never compared me to anyone from her past or made me feel like stability was a flaw. We took things slow not because of fear, but because there was no rush. Healthy connections don't demand urgency or performance. They just grow. Sometimes we'd sit on my balcony late at night, talking about small dreams, weekend plans, or nothing at all. And in those quiet moments, I realized how loud my old relationship had been with doubt and tension. This was different. This was easy. And for the first time in years, easy didn't feel boring. Felt safe in the best way. Occasionally, news about Sarah still drifted back to me through distant channels. Not because I asked, but because people talk. Her freelance work never fully recovered. She burned bridges the same way she burned relationships, fast and careless. Therapy helped her some, or so I heard, but growth means nothing without accountability. What stuck with me most was not her regret, but the pattern. She didn't miss me for who I was. She missed what I provided. The stability, the backup, the safety net she thought would always be there. And knowing that made walking away the best decision I ever made. I also had to confront my own role in everything. Not in blaming myself for her choices, but in acknowledging where I had ignored my own boundaries. Love should never require you to accept disrespect in the name of understanding. That lesson changed how I showed up in every area of my life. I became more direct, more selective, more willing to walk away early instead of hoping someone would eventually treat me better. Respect, I learned, is not something you earn by sacrificing yourself. It is the minimum requirement. Looking back at that party now, I no longer feel anger or embarrassment. I feel gratitude. That moment forced the truth into the open before more years were lost. When she asked me to hide our relationship, she didn't just reveal her intentions. She gave me an exit. And instead of arguing, begging, or explaining myself for the 1,000th time, I took it. Quietly, cleanly, with dignity. Sometimes the strongest response is simply agreement followed by action. So if you're reading this and you're in a situation where someone wants the benefits of you without the responsibility of claiming you, pay attention. If you're asked to dim your presence, to be conveniently invisible, or to accept being just a friend when you've given everything like a partner, that is your sign. Walk away before they teach you the same lesson twice. Losing someone who never fully chose you is not a loss. It's a release. That's where my story ends. Not with revenge. Not with closure from her, but with growth, peace, and a life that finally feels aligned. Thanks for staying till the end. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe and hit like. Share your thoughts below.